Hello, everyone. Josip Stetner here, PokeStetnerUpdates.com. We have with us today the Honorable Greg Ball. He's a state senator here in New York, the chairman, I think, of more than one committee, but most importantly, the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. How have you been, sir?
Hey, very well. How are you?
Yeah, I think you would be better described as a troublemaker, but that I'll leave for a different day. You're always full of energy, full of power, full of ideas, to make a difference and make noise. Levy, what's up with you with your farming? I saw your video on YouTube a few weeks ago, and I think it was very cool actually. But how do you get hooked up to pushing the farming industry here in New York?
Well, I mean, my background is I grew up on a small farm. I was a member of 4-H for over 10 years and raised, actually made my own cheese and raised goats and had a 2-acre market garden and have been very involved on that end for a long time. And at the end of my life, which hopefully is a long time from now, I'll definitely get back into that. And I do a little bit of it now, raise pigs and have a bull that I saved and had a bunch of turkeys and geese, and I really enjoy it a lot. So keeps you grounded.
Yeah, but is there many people who will listen to this or read about this are from the city, and how many of them know what type of farming industry we have at all here in the state? Now, I live in Rockland, and I don't know much about it, but I do,
I think that what people are beginning to realize, and this includes a lot of people who are in New York City, is that we have got to make sure that we are growing food locally, and that it is humanely raised, and that it is raised outside of the processes of commercialization like we see now. And if you just watch the documentaries, and I think people are beginning to become a lot more intelligent in their decision making when it comes to what they're putting in their mouth. And it's increasingly important that we look at how our food is being raised and realize that it's a small group of industry giants that are controlling the vast majority of food items, and that's a problem. So
yeah, I don't want to focus too much on this issue, but I'm wondering one more thing. As you said, there's a giant. They control the market, but they certainly have the majority of the market. They come in with things produced on the cheap, and you go into the store, I guess.
It's chemicals, and it's a bunch of stuff that if you really knew what you were putting in your mouth, you just wouldn't do it.
I know. And people say many of the problems that we have with the youngsters today, the kids, is rooted in this issue that they get fed the animals or whatever you want to call them that gets laid, the cows. Everybody gets fed so much junk that it destroys people. But the question is, how would a small-time guy in New York, even if he has a huge farm and can produce dairy stuff, how would he compete with the big guys? I mean, is there any push?
I think that's what there's a role for government here, because I'm a limited government guy. But if you look at the fact that we have one of the largest consumer economies in New York City, and it's a very intelligent economy as well, and very discerning. And at the end of the day, if we did a better job of connecting the small farmers and the medium-sized producers, those that raise naturally raised, humanely raised, organic or otherwise, and connected those folks to the market in New York City, you would see that there are people out there who are willing to produce the product, and those folks who care about what they're putting in their mouth in that same way, many times are willing to pay a higher price point for food that they know is properly raised, humanely raised, to the extent the government can create that nexus, it's a win-win for everybody.
All right, let's move on. Anti-Semitic attacks, aren't necessarily a Homeland Security issue, but I believe that violent acts may lead to stepped-up security threats, depending how out of control it gets. Is there anything your committee specifically, or the state senate in general, can do regarding the rise of hateful acts in downstate and New Jersey? Obviously, your jurisdiction is on New York, but as a neighboring state, is there anything you can do besides, not necessarily from a political level, but from a tactical, actual law level, to look into, what's driving this issue and what can be done to stop it, to control it? Is there anything?
One thing, and I discussed this with the new Commissioner of Homeland Security in New York State, and to very specifically drill down, we talk about the soft underbelly being prone to attacks, whether it be schools or whatnot. And I'm increasingly and extremely concerned with the soft underbelly, especially in the New York City metropolitan area, of our houses of worship and synagogues, and the communities that are, just because of the very nature of our open society, are entirely open and prone to attack. And we have seen either outright attacks or thwarted attempts on homes of worship and communities, and it is something that we have to take very seriously, because many of these not-for-profits and religious institutions and residential communities do not have the funding or the wherewithal internally to purchase the defense mechanisms and security measures that really should be in place. And while we cannot protect every strip mall and every cul-de-sac in the United States of America, I think it goes without saying that there are communities throughout the New York City metropolitan area that, unfortunately, because of the very nature of the threat that we live with every day, are prone to attack. And this is something that we have to take extremely seriously, and our focus shouldn't just be on those areas like government buildings that are totally in our purview, but expanding out into communities that do have that soft underbelly. So I've spoken to the Commissioner about it, and certainly my committee has continued to look into it, and it's really something the government needs to appropriate the proper resources to protect these communities.
Is there providing maybe more funding for police departments for step-up patrols? Is it something as part of an option, or? Yeah,
I think we have to look at that moving into this budget. The other thing we have to do is we have got to alert the federal government to our concerns. The New York State, New York City continuously gets placed on the back burner, and you see a federal Department of Homeland Security that is handing out grants and cash for Homeland Security projects in places like Iowa. I mean, God bless Iowa, but at the end of the day, it's the New York City metropolitan region and New York that are on the top of the terrorist target day in and day out. And we have got to do a better job across the partisan divide and across the state and federal divide to fight for our fair share and to bring it back to our communities.
And I think, I may be wrong, but I think that part of something being done on a fair share for Iowa versus New York may perhaps be with a congressional delegation, which is not so effective in one state versus another. But maybe we'll get to it soon. Let me ask you something a little bit different. The Arab Spring. Is there a connection between the Arab Spring and a potential increased threat to U.S. security? I mean, it's cool to think that the spring is so nice and breezy, but when Islam gets 75% control of the Egyptian parliament, when Libya is pretty much a hellhole, despite the limited coverage that we have here, and Iraq is turning back into a crazy place, if you follow the news there, one has to wonder how well can all this stack up for the U.S. Kind of thing?
Well, I got to tell you, I think that there are some of those in this world who will only who only respect power, and there are those who are evil who need to be met with determination and a fierceness and power. And unfortunately, we have a president who, while during the campaign was a great orator, used that oratory to basically go on an apology tour of the world. And in my opinion, even given recent changes, has destabilized the relationship both with Israel and the entire balance of power in the Middle East. And certainly to the casual observer in the United States, watching regimes be toppled, they may believe that this is the second coming of our sons of liberty. But you're exactly right. You have to follow up and then see when that vacuum is created, who's filling that vacuum. And we have a very dangerous situation that continues to grow in the Middle East, and we really need a president, regardless of party, who stands firm and that they know is resolute in extending American power.
Yeah, let's go to some local and state politics a little bit, and I'll let you go if you don't mind.
Sure.
I don't know, maybe the time, some people said that the maps of the state assembly, state senate are already being released today. I don't know if that's a fantasy or a dream. Is there any truth to it? Or?
They're supposed to come out either today or tomorrow.
Okay. So, what's your take on this whole idea of adding the 63rd seat? You know,
well, look, I mean, first, I've always said that I would support independent redistricting, truly independent redistricting. I think it would have been, nice to move in that direction. Short of that, right now, we do have a Republican majority that's working with a Democratic majority in the Assembly and a Democratic governor. So it's 2-1, but working for the most part in a bipartisan fashion to move that forward. And I think the governor, while if he had his druthers from the campaign, would have liked to have seen complete and comprehensive reform of the redistricting process. But short of that, everybody's working as adults to properly respect both minority and majority interests, and just focus completely on constitutional redistricting. And the 63rd seat, New York State has gained population over the period of time, which would allow the Senate, and I believe both the Assembly as well, to move forward with adding a seat. But it is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm focused on my seat and my region and delivering for the constituents and creating jobs and trying to make sure that we move forward strongly to re-election.
Yeah. So the 63rd seat is indeed happening. It's obviously everybody's reported that it's on and it's official, but is it in the final plan? This is my question.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that I'm not intimately involved on the redistricting side, so all I can talk about is the things that I have read on the blog, just like you. Quite honestly, I'm not evading.
Come on. Okay.
No, it's true. I mean, I'm
not saying you're lying. I'm not suggesting that. Saying, oh my God. And so what's up with the you're not intimately involved, but maybe you heard something which I didn't. Is there any truth in the final planning of the so-called super Jewish state senate district that everybody was speaking for Brooklyn, or that is out of the window too?
Once again, I mean, it's totally out of my purview. I'm just not intimately involved on the redistricting plans, but I will say that I think that because of some of the national and state issues, that we're going to be able to be extremely competitive in districts that the Democrats have taken for granted for a long time. And anybody, Jewish, Protestant, Hispanic, Caucasian, rich, poor, can look at this Republican majority working with the governor and delivering real results in a way that the previous Democratic majority was just organically incapable of doing.
Yeah, it was a disaster. So tell me, when are you announcing a primary run against Hayward?
She makes it so tough to not run against her because she's so disconnected from the district that she represents that really needs a true and independent voice. But this Senate seat decided the balance of power in the previous election. There's no doubt that moving forward, this Senate seat is going to be similarly important. So I'm focused on re-election to the state Senate, and whether it be the repeal of the MTA payroll tax, a balanced budget,
so
redistricting or balance of power. This state Senate seat is the one that made it happen. So.
Definitely, I remember when you first ran for the House seat, then decided to focus fully on the state Senate seat, and you won it, and put in a lot of energy. That's clearly so. Again, so you're ruling out or on against her, or you want to see the maps first?
No, I'm totally committed to re-election to the state Senate.
All right, let me ask you one more question, and I'll let you go. And I really appreciate your time here. What are the prospects for Republicans to gain some House seats or any statewide seats this upcoming November? Because, truth be told, the fact of the matter is that the state party is a mess. It's not my opinion. It's not what I want or think. It's reality. It's a fact. The state party has, at least on and I'm not speaking the legislative side, I'm speaking just the political operation, it is a mess. So, how or if at all can this be fixed or changed?
Well, I mean, thanks to the leadership of Dean Skelos, the Senate Republican majority, we're in very good position to expand our majority. Now, on the House side, they have a few things going on. The first thing is that their approval ratings are somewhat beneath the